All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon, and in this video, we are going to talk about what Errol Spence Jr. said, confirmed, about how big that man actually is. Let's talk about that in the lead into this fight that is only a month away. Let's do that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon, and in this video, we're going to be in the 147-pound division once again, talking about the big fight that's coming up July 29th. And I'm going to do my absolute best to promote this fight as a boxing fan with a platform, because I think it is very, very important that we all buy this fight, watch this fight, and encourage other fighters to make big fights just like this. Mega fight that has taken place for the undisputed championship of the world in the welterweight division between Errol the Truth Spence Jr. and Terence Bud Crawford. Spence holding the WBA, the WBC, and the IBF, and Terence Crawford holding the WBO. But before we get into that, I just want to tell you real fast about today's sponsor, the Boxing Showtime app. It's a very useful app that keeps you updated on all things boxing, and you can keep up with the latest fights, where to watch them, the latest news, and a lot more. For any hardcore boxing fan like myself, and most likely all of y'all, I would definitely recommend downloading it. And it also is most definitely a big support to the channel. It's available for both Apple and Android, and you can find the link in the description below. Thanks for considering downloading Boxing Showtime's app. But let's get back into the subject matter of the video. Now, in a recent interview between Errol Spence Jr. and Bomani Jones on YouTube, there was some information that was given by Errol Spence, which confirms a lot of rumors about his actual size. Now, if you don't know, one of the big issues or one of the big mysteries in this fight is what is Terence Crawford going to do about the size disadvantage that he faces against Errol Spence Jr. Terence Crawford, for his part, and Terence Crawford fans, for their part, have said that there's really not much of a size difference between the two of them. And as somebody that is considerably over 200 pounds, and I mean considerably like way over 200 pounds, to me, I've seen them both in person, and they both look like small guys to me when I look at them, right? However, when you're fighting in the 147-pound division, and you are that small, 5 pounds, 10 pounds can be a big difference in the size of guys when you're in that type of physical combat sport. So Errol Spence Jr. was asked by Bomani Jones about his size, right? And he said that he walks around at about 175 pounds. Said that if he was not boxing, that he would probably walk around in the 180s. Now, the reason that the conversation came up is because Errol Spence Jr. had played football in high school, and he, according to what Bomani Jones said, I do believe that he said he played football with Von Miller. And he said, wow, how could you have been a football player if you're only weighing 147 pounds? So he said, look, really, I'm not 147 pounds. I get down to 147 pounds for fights, but I really walk around at about 100. I really walk around at 170, 175 pounds. And if I was not a fighter, if I was not training to be for that weight class, I may be in the 180s. Let me assure you, dude, that is not a little dude by any stretch of the imagination. And that, I think, is what people talk about when they talk about the size advantage of Errol Spence Jr. Now, Terrence Crawford, for his part, is not a small guy either. There was an interview that he gave, and people asked him, "What is the biggest misconception about you?" And Terrence Crawford said that I'm small. Right? Now, people like to put a pause next to that, but for the mature people in the building, he's talking about, he's not that small a guy. And if you see him in pictures with like him and Floyd Mayweather Jr., you can see that he's taller than Floyd Mayweather Jr. When you see him with guys like Josh Taylor, who's the former undisputed champion at 140 pounds, Josh Taylor, I think, is a little bit bigger than Terrence Crawford is. Terrence Crawford clearly started his professional career at 135 pounds, moved up to 100. Actually, he started at 140, moved down to 135, back up to 140, and then to 147. So this may be the topped out weight division that Terrence Crawford can be in at the age of 35, going on 36 years old, where Errol started at 154 in the first few fights of his career, moved down to 147, and then now is looking to move back up to 154 after this whole situation with Terrence Crawford plays itself out. So clearly you have Errol Spence Jr., who is the bigger guy. And I don't know, though, whether or not that's not going to make a big difference in the fight if Errol Spence Jr. can't hit Terrence Crawford, right? And be able to use that size advantage, use that weight advantage. Now, the other question is, and that people bring up, and I think is a reasonable question, is does that size necessarily translate into strength? Just because you're a bigger guy doesn't necessarily mean you're a stronger guy. And one of the things that Terrence Crawford is going to try to do and need to do if he does not want to engage in prolonged battles on the inside against Errol Spence, and he also is unable to keep Errol Spence Jr. from forcing the fight with him, he's going to have to be able to grab Errol, hold Errol, and keep Errol from being overly busy on the inside, which has not to date been shown to be a strength of Terrence Crawford. And so the question of size itself does not answer the question of strength. There are small people who are very wiry and very, very strong. I think that Deontay Wilder is probably a good example of somebody that is very strong for somebody that only weighs, 215, 220 pounds, right? However, weight does matter. There's weight classes for a reason, and we'll see. Now, interestingly enough, the size advantage is nothing that Errol Spence Jr. himself has ever talked about as being necessarily an advantage for him. He talks about his boxing skills. He talks about his style. Derek James, who is the trainer of Errol Spence Jr., does not talk about the size being a big factor in the fight. He talks about the fundamental skills of Errol Spence Jr. So I don't think size is something that they're necessarily counting on. However, to hear the words, I would probably be walking around in the 180s if I was playing football, which is, I do believe, a good size. I think that's a pretty good size cornerback, not quarterback. Clearly, quarterbacks in football are much bigger than that, but that could be a good size cornerback, which could also answer the questions about speed and the like. But anyway, I just thought verifying the actual size of Errol Spence Jr. coming out of his own mouth would be an interesting thing to talk about. You let me know what you think about that and whether it'll have impact on the fight or not. And with that, I'm out. Peace.